the mind before sleep, a hidden door to your next life. There is a moment most people never see, a silent, invisible threshold. It lies in the space between your last conscious thought and the deep descent into sleep. And while the world may dismiss it as trivial, ancient wisdom whispers something else entirely. It says this moment, the final few minutes before you lose awareness, is the secret doorway through which your next life begins. Not in the next birth, but the next version of you, the next unfolding of your destiny. If you ignore this moment, you leave your future in the hands of habit and fear. But if you understand it and use it wisely, you begin to walk the path of the awakened. You begin to create from stillness, not struggle. You stop chasing and begin embodying. Welcome to Buddha's story. We greet you with reverence and curiosity, and we invite you into this sacred exploration. What you are about to hear may disturb you, awaken you, or even heal you, but it will not leave you unchanged. So stay. Let us journey inward. Imagine this. Every night, as your eyes close, your mind softens. Your defenses fall. The critical voice that polices your life quiets, and in its place rises something more powerful, your subconscious. It is ancient, loyal, and deeply obedient. It does not argue. It does not doubt. It simply accepts. And what you offer it in those final moments of wakefulness becomes the seed of tomorrow's reality. This is not poetry. It is the very mechanism of karma. As the Buddha once said, intention is the seed, and from the seed comes fruit. Not all karma is created through actions. Much is created through the formations of the mind, through thoughts rehearsed, feelings repeated, assumptions believed. This is why, in many Buddhist monasteries, monks are trained to prepare for sleep as they would prepare for death, with clarity, with awareness, with intention. Because sleep is not just rest. It is rehearsal. It is transfer. It is transmission. But modern life has stolen this sacred pause from us. Most people fall asleep scrolling through chaos, reviewing anxieties, or dwelling on scarcity. They whisper to the universe, "I am not enough. I do not have what I need. I fear tomorrow." And the universe, like the perfect mirror it is, echoes back the same. What if instead you offered your mind something different? What if you lay down each night not in desperation but in devotion? Not with questions but with answers already felt? The transformation begins when you stop asking for your desires and start embodying them. Not tomorrow, not someday, now, before sleep, right here, in the quiet, in the dark, in the space where imagination meets surrender. There was a man named Aaron, once a businessman drowning in failure and regret. He stumbled upon a small Buddhist text one evening. It spoke of bhavana, not just meditation, but the cultivation of the mind through consistent emotional presence. That night, instead of rehearsing his debts and fears, Aaron imagined waking up with peace. He felt sunlight on his skin, heard laughter at his breakfast table, and sensed the ease of having already overcome. He did not force these images. He simply lived inside them, as if recalling a memory. At first, nothing changed. Then something subtle happened. His thoughts softened. He began making calmer decisions. He noticed new opportunities where he once saw dead ends. Months later, his life looked different. Not because he chased harder, but because he became the version of himself who no longer had to chase. This is what we mean when we say, do not wish. Embody. Do not plead. Assume. The feeling is the prayer. And the prayer is the seed. The Buddha taught that liberation begins not in effort, but in right view. And right view means seeing the truth, not just the outer truth of conditions, but the inner truth of possibility. When you assume the feeling of your fulfilled desire before sleep, you practice right view. You declare, what I want is not outside of me. It is within. It is already alive in feeling. And what is alive in feeling must eventually bloom in form. Some may ask, is this real? Is it not just fantasy? But tell me, is it any less real than worry, than anxiety? We believe our fears without proof. We build lives around assumptions of failure. And yet, when asked to feel peace in advance, we hesitate. This hesitation is the great barrier, the gate between sleep and transformation. To cross it, you must believe without seeing. You must feel without evidence. You must assume, as the awakened do, that reality bends not to force, but to frequency. Even the Buddha, before his enlightenment, sat beneath the Bodhi tree and remembered a moment of quiet joy beneath a rose apple tree from childhood. He returned to that feeling. That memory became the door to his deepest meditation. He did not chase enlightenment through torment. He opened to it through remembered peace. What memory do you carry that could be your key? What feeling of love or safety or joy could you bring into tonight, not to escape reality, but to reshape it? Let that be your final thought before sleep. Let it be a feeling so familiar, so true, that your subconscious accepts it without resistance. And when you wake, you may not see change immediately, but you will feel it. And soon, the outer world will mirror the new inner rhythm you have set. Before we continue to the next part of this teaching, I invite you to subscribe to Buddha's Story. If this message touched you or stirred something deep, your support helps us share more wisdom, more stories, and more reminders of the truth already within you. And now, a small question to reflect upon. Which is more powerful? A. Hoping for peace while feeling lack. B. Assuming peace and feeling it, even before it appears. Comment below with your answer, A or B. Let us see where your heart stands. Your response may awaken another. Let us continue this journey together, the gentle repetition that rewires reality. There is a quiet revolution that begins not with effort, but with consistency. Not with dramatic moments of transformation, but with the soft rhythm of feeling something true again and again until it becomes so familiar that the mind stops questioning it. This is the art of inner alignment. It is not loud, but it is certain, and it is how true change begins to take root. Most people imagine that real change must come from force, from massive action, from pushing themselves harder than ever before. But Buddhism teaches a different law. In the Eightfold Path, the Buddha introduced the principle of right effort. This is not effort fueled by fear or force. It is the consistent, balanced application of energy toward what is wholesome, peaceful, and true. And in the context of inner transformation, it means repeating the desired state, gently, patiently, and without resistance, until it becomes your new baseline. This is why the moment before sleep matters. But just as important as the moment is the repetition of the feeling. One night of imagining peace is not enough. One attempt at assuming abundance will not break years of scarcity-based programming. It must be returned to, again and again, until your nervous system no longer reacts with doubt, until your body begins to breathe differently, until your thoughts unconsciously echo the frequency you have been practicing. Think of it this way. If you had lived in a cold room for years, your body would become adapted to the chill. You would hunch, shiver, and dress accordingly. But if each night you stepped into a warm room just for 5 minutes, at first, it would feel unfamiliar. You might even resist it. But over time, your body would begin to relax. The tension would soften. You would begin to crave the warmth. And eventually, your system would adjust. That warmth would become your new normal. So it is with emotion. So it is with energy. When you feel peace consistently, your nervous system begins to stabilize. When you feel love consistently, your defenses begin to melt. When you feel success consistently, your posture changes, your decisions sharpen, and your life begins to move in that direction. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became the one who was ready to receive it. There was a woman named Elira who lived most of her adult life surrounded by struggle. Raised in poverty, she carried with her a deeply rooted belief that life was hard, that nothing ever came easy, and that abundance was for other people. She worked long hours, she repeated positive affirmations, she visualized occasionally, but nothing shifted. One day, she met an elderly monk who had lived decades in quiet meditation. He asked her one question, "How often do you feel what you are asking for?" She said, "I think about it a lot." "No," he replied, "not think, feel. Do you feel it daily? Do you let it become your home?" That night, something shifted in her. Instead of reading affirmations like a to-do list, she lit a candle, closed her eyes, and allowed herself to remember what warmth felt like. Not from money, not from possessions, but from a place within her that had once known ease. She imagined what it would feel like to walk into a home that was safe, open, and filled with peace. She returned to that feeling again the next night and the next. She made it her ritual, not out of discipline, but out of devotion. Months passed. Not everything changed overnight, but her sense of herself began to shift. She stopped speaking about herself as a survivor and began to describe her life as in transition. She made different choices, and slowly, reality began to catch up. Not because she did more, but because she became more aligned. This is what Buddha called dependent origination. One thing gives rise to another. If you water fear daily, fear grows. If you water doubt, doubt deepens. But if you water stillness, faith, and gratitude, day after day, those seeds bloom. And just like the seasons, their blooming cannot be rushed, but it is inevitable. The modern world glorifies speed. Social media wants quick success. Self-help gurus promise 5 steps to overnight breakthroughs, but the Dharma is not impatient. Truth is not in a hurry. And the deepest transformations happen quietly, like roots growing underground before the tree ever breaks the surface. So if you are practicing this nightly ritual of embodiment, of assuming the result, but feel like nothing is happening, keep going. Keep repeating. Keep entering the warmth. You are not failing. You are reprogramming. There is a verse in the Dhammapada: as rain breaks through an ill-thatched roof, passion will break through an untrained mind. But just as the rain can damage, it can also purify. The mind, when bathed each night in gentle, conscious feeling, begins to shed its old identifications. The false self dissolves. The deeper self emerges, and this practice is not limited to wealth, success, or even healing. It applies to enlightenment itself. One of the great masters of the Thai forest tradition, Ajahn Viro, once said that the path to awakening is not about intensity, but intimacy. You must return to the breath again and again. You must greet the present moment like an old friend. You must assume stillness long before stillness becomes your permanent state. Even in the Zen tradition, the phrase just sitting means more than posture. It means allowing the truth to arise by simply returning to the seat of presence over and over, without grasping, without forcing, just returning. So return. Each night, return to the feeling of what you desire, not from craving, but from compassion, not from hope, but from memory. Even if you have never experienced your desire in real life, you can still summon the sensation. That is the power of consciousness. It can create experience before experience has materialized. This is not imagination in the childish sense. It is inner rehearsal. It is vibrational cultivation. It is bhavana in the truest sense. And here is what you must know. You do not need to feel it perfectly. You only need to feel it sincerely. It is not about intensity. It is about familiarity. Let the new state become so familiar that the old self cannot survive. If doubt comes, do not argue with it. Simply return to the feeling. If fear arises, bless it for what it once protected and return again. This is not denial. It is redirection. And with each return, you deepen the groove of your new identity. The world outside may not shift instantly. That is fine. Let it catch up. Reality is delayed expression. The inner world changes first, the outer follows. And so we arrive at the truth. Reality is not shaped by occasional bursts of positivity. It is shaped by repeated alignment. It is shaped by devotion to the inner state, regardless of what the outer says. Every night you repeat this practice, you become more anchored, more magnetic, more certain. And soon, without effort, the mirror of life begins to reflect the self you have finally remembered, the one who was never lacking, the one who was never broken, the one who only needed to return, again and again, to who they truly are.